Coming to the second type of cycle, that is called as a phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus cycle, it is a biogeochemical cycle that describes the movement of phosphorus through the lithosphere, hydrosphere and biosphere. So unlike many other biogeochemical cycles, the atmosphere does not play a significant role in the movement of phosphorus, because phosphorus and phosphorus based compound are usually solid at the typical ranges of the temperature and pressure on the earth. So before we go to the phosphorus cycle, why phosphorus is needed to the organisms? So phosphorus is needed to make ATP, it is needed to make DNA, and it is needed to make lipids. This phosphorus is released by weathering of rocks. When these rocks fall, the producers, it absorbs the phosphorus through the roots, and this phosphorus moves up in the food chain as the animal eats the producers, that is the plant. When the plant and the animal decay, the decomposers obtain phosphorus as they feed on dead remains, and this phosphorus is released as a waste. So the phosphorus is also contributed by the human, that is human contribution of phosphorus is by using the fertilizers which contain the phosphorus, and when they are added to grow the crops. So this thing you have to remember about the phosphorus, the importance of phosphorus and how the phosphorus is recycled in the ecosystem. So this phosphorus cycle is the movement of phosphorus from the environment to the organism and then back to the environment. This is also called as the mineral cycle, or it is also called as a sedimentary cycle. So unlike other cycles, phosphorus cannot be found in air in the gaseous state. It is the slowest cycle, and atmosphere does not play a significant role in the movement of phosphorus, because phosphorus and phosphorus based compound are usually solids at the typical range of temperature and pressure, and it is found on the earth. So on the land, phosphorus, the chemical symbol is P, gradually becomes less available to the plants. Over thousands of years it becomes slowly lost in the runoff. So as I told you in the beginning, it is essential nutrient for plants and animals. So it is a part of DNA molecules and also RNA molecules that stores the energy as ATP and ADP. It is a building block of certain parts of human and animal bodies, such as the bones and the teeth. What is the ecological function of phosphorus? It is essential nutrient for plants and animals. It is limiting nutrient for aquatic organisms, and parts of the important life sustaining molecules that is very common in the biosphere. And the biological function is the phosphate is a component of nucleotides which serves as an energy storage within the cell, and it is linked together from the nucleic acid, that is DNA and the RNA. So if you just consider the in the ecosystem the view of phosphorus cycle, so how this phosphorus is formed? By the withering of the rocks. So the ecosystem of phosphorus cycle moves faster than the sediment cycle. All organisms require phosphorus for synthesis of phospholipids, NADPH, ATP, nucleic acid and other compounds. This is absorbed by the plant very quickly, and then it is eaten by the herbivores, and this phosphorus herbivores get the phosphorus by eating the plants. Then the carnivores get phosphorus by eating the herbivores. So eventually both these organisms will excrete phosphorus as waste, and this decomposition will release the phosphorus into the soil, and then plants absorb the phosphorus from the soil and they recycle it within the ecosystem. So if you just write this picture and write the explanation on the phosphorus cycle, that is more than enough for the phosphorus cycle. So how it is absorbed by the plant, and when this plant is eaten by the herbivores and when this herbivorous plant is eaten by the carnivorous, how this phosphorus is recycled in the ecosystem. So this is also a cycle that you have to write in the examination. So how we get the phosphorus from the rocks and the soil, and this runoff lakes and streams, the inorganic phosphate is formed, and this inorganic phosphate is absorbed by the plant by the absorption, and this phosphate is absorbed by the organism by the metabolism, and it is important for the energy consumptions, that is ATP. After the decay of the plant and the animals, so the decomposition occurs, and then the phosphate is released back to the soil and the rock. So this is about the phosphorus cycle. The diagram that you have to write in the examination is this diagram, and the brief explanation is what I told in the previous slide. And you can reservoir, the erosion transfer phosphorus to water and soil, sediment and rock that accumulate on the ocean floor return to the surface as a result of uplifting of geological processes. That is, assimilation means plants absorb inorganic phosphate from the soil, animals obtain organic phosphorus, and these plants and animals release this phosphorus when they decompose, and animal excrete phosphorus in their waste product, and we remove large amount of phosphate from the earth to make a fertilizer, and we reduce the phosphorus in tropical soil by clearing the forest. So we add excess of phosphate to the aquatic system from the runoff animal waste and fertilizers by the process what is called as eutrophication. So the review about the phosphorus cycle means when the rocks high in phosphorus are exposed to the water, the rocks wither out and goes into the solution, and this autotrophs absorb this phosphorus and uses it in many different ways, and then the plant is eaten by the heterotrophs and then obtain the phosphorus from the plant, and then the phosphate leaves the body and decomposes move the phosphorus into the soil or water, then the plant will absorb this phosphorus. So this is the brief explanation about the phosphorus cycle. The cycle what I told you have to write, and this review is important, or what is the picture what I told about the phosphorus cycle. If you write that is more than enough.